Hello and welcome to our video on motivation and goal setting with the goal. The goal of the goal is to put it into practice. So by the end of this, you will understand motivation and goal setting a little bit better. You will also be applying what you've learned, and there is going to be an assignment based on that, and here it is right here. For this, you will reflect on the following, and you will submit this by the end of the week. And you will do this in a discussion board, and I would like for each of you to make a comment on at least two other people's prompt. So it would be great if you could hand this in as soon as possible so people will have that option, and not everybody is on Sunday. So that would be really good. So two people to comment on. All right, so you will reflect on the following. What motivates you in the short and long term? How does surface and deep learning apply to you? Which kind of learner have you been in the past? Was it deep or was it surface? What kind of learner would you like to be right now and into the future? I'm kind of thinking about like what can help you to get there. What are some barriers to your motivation? What might help you to maintain your motivation? Consider your own growth mindset. LMC loves growth mindset. So you will hear this many times if you take certain teachers. So this is a good concept to get familiar with. Think about the observations that you have about your own process of thinking about learning and intelligence. And we'll talk more about what that might look like. Also, finally, assess where you currently are for being a deep learner. Might you be a deep learner for some subjects and not for others? What can help you to facilitate deep learning? So I look forward to reading this, and I look forward to commenting on on what you hand in. So first up is motivation. Motivation can be teased out into two goals: extrinsic, and I'm gonna say that weird. I had to do this whole tape over again because I kept saying it wrong, and it still isn't. It's still not clicking. So we'll see how I do. So we have extrinsic motivation and intrinsic. And the difference here is intrinsic is what's inside, and extrinsic is what's on the outside. So what this can include when it's extrinsic goals is deadlines, social status, money, prizes, winning, failure, perks. So what are you doing to get something else? Okay, so the goal is to get something else. One day you will have your profession that you are going to college for, and hopefully you will love it. Hopefully you would want to pay them to do it. And there are some jobs that people feel that way about. And I hope you have one of those jobs that you love so much that you would go if you won the lottery. Those kinds of jobs foster intrinsic motivation in a person. They do it because they love it. Extrinsic is when it is external and you do it for the money. You do it for the social status. You do it to get somewhere. So a lot of times we may do a job to get somewhere because eventually you will get into that job that you love even more, and that then you really appreciate that job and you love that job because you had to get kind of through these other steps in order to get to that place. You know, it's like actors, really good actors best actors in the world all had to start somewhere. And they may have done it for the money, they may have done it for the opportunity, and a lot of them did ads on TV or ads in a magazine that they may not have been happy about. And that is because they were hoping that it would get them to some experience in the next step. So whoever your favorite actor is, they have something that they're not so proud about. And that could be because they did it for the money, or they did it for the experience and to get somewhere else until they could get to that spot where they win an Academy Award or whatever it is. So thinking about what is a motivation for you. Now, I talk to a lot of people actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a video that I absolutely love. It is from the director of Black Panther. And in the video, he talks about how he discovered screenwriting, which eventually led to directing. And in that video, he'll talk about what it was like in college, because he took a college class. It was an English class. He was like, I'm majoring in science. He didn't even know that he liked film yet. He didn't even know that yet. And he was in this English class, and he had to write an essay, and he wrote very, very vividly. His teacher called him to her office, and you'll see what ensued. But he originally wanted to be a doctor, and in Black Panther, you could see his love of science coming through. But all of that had a background that he eventually was able to integrate into this thing that he is really good at. And so finding that thing that you love and that you can connect with. And in college, hopefully you'll choose classes that will help you know to know that something is extrinsic, that you are doing it because you have to. And you may take a class thinking that, oh, I'm just doing this because I need an easy A. But you may find out that that is the thing that you love, and that may be the thing that you major in and the thing that you work in. So you should keep an open mind. If you think you want to be a nurse, that is awesome and great. But why do you want to do that? Is it to help people, or is it to make $100 an hour? Both those things sound great until maybe you gotta see some blood. And that is when a lot of people are like, you know what? I'll find something else to do. Also, in college, you won't only find what your passions are to do for work, but you may find your passions to do for fun. And that is really important. And I forgot to read the intrinsic goals. These include self-worth, knowledge, growth, passion, dedication, fun, and purpose. In life, you will need to have a mix of these things. And right now, it's important to kind of assess, like, I'm taking an administration of justice class. Am I doing it just to get an A, just to mark off a general education? Or is it something that might help me in my job? Is that something that might help me be a good citizen? All of those things come into play. Next is growth mindset. Growth mindset is a concept that you'll hear a lot about these days, and it is contrasted with fixed mindset. Growth mindset says that if you fall down, that you get up and you try it again. And you try it again because you think you can improve. So for example, let's say you take statistics and you get a D in it. When you take it over again, how do you look at that? How do you look at that D? Do you look at that D as, you know what, I'm not good in math and I don't think I'm going to get it? but I just need to eke out a C, and what's the easy teacher I can take? There is that. So it's saying that you're not good enough, you're not smart enough to get a grade or to do well in the class, that you're just going to eke by. Now, growth mindset would say, you know what? I've already seen that information once. I think when I review it a second time, it'll stick. I think I will be able to do better in that class because I know what to expect now and I have a foundation. So thinking about how you can grow from something instead of more of a fatalistic way of looking at it. So some of the things that someone would say with the growth mindset is failure is an opportunity to grow. I can learn to do anything I want to. Challenges help me to grow. My effort and attitude determines my abilities. And, oops, sorry, I have to move myself and it's hard to see here. Let me do this. I am inspired by the success of others. Feedback is constructive and I like to try new things. These are the kinds of things that if you find yourself saying, that you will be able to engage in something that is challenging. You know, college isn't necessarily hard, it's just challenging. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of things that you have to be organized for. And you wouldn't necessarily be in a class if you are there. Sometimes it may not be the right time for a class because you need to take some prereqs. And so that is something to consider and something to talk about with a counselor. But knowing that one day you will get this and that you can train your brain, that you can look at things in a different way to reframe them. Reframing is key to so many issues that you will face in imposter syndrome. That is where people think that they don't deserve to be at a place and that they shouldn't be there, and then they start to internalize that, and that is something that growth mindset helps to change that. And sometimes it takes a while, but at least if you know that you have these thoughts, you can stop yourself, you can point at them, and you could know what they are, in contrast to fixed mindset, which is failure is the limit of my abilities. So you try, it doesn't work, that's all, go home, that's it. So thinking about when you say those kinds of things and stopping yourself and questioning that. I'm either good or I'm not. You know what? A lot of people don't. I mean, anybody in sports probably didn't get there through their natural abilities. They had to work. My abilities are unchanging. I don't like to be challenged. I can either do it or I can't. My potential is predetermined. When I'm frustrated, I give up. Feedback and criticism are personal, and I stick to what I know. If you find yourself saying these things or a version of these things, question yourself and really look at that. Maybe even talk to a friend or family member or a counselor at school to figure out how to push through and use this as an opportunity to figure out what you need. If you are pulled to have these feelings, it may mean that you need to approach the problem in a different way. It's your brain or your mind just telling you that you need to regroup and assess what you need to do so that you can develop a growth mindset. And a lot of times, I know for me, as someone who has a learning disability, I was always like, you know what, I can't do math. You know what, I can't write. I still say I can't write, and I've published books. I mean, Come on, I don't think that that is accurate, and I have the evidence to prove that. But you get what I call ghosts, is you have these ghosts in your head, and they come back and they haunt you. Your third grade teacher who said that you couldn't cut, and that's what the third grade teacher said to me. It is the college professor who might tell you that you don't belong. I had a college professor tell me that I didn't belong the first week of grad school. And I was like, you know what? I went to Catholic school with dyslexia and a stutter. I think I can do grad school. And I did, because Catholic school in the 1980s was a lot harder because we didn't have civil rights laws like the Americans with Disabilities Act. So I had to really to struggle through school, but I knew that that struggle was the thing that would get me. But I already had a roadmap, and I was able to know that I needed to reframe those negative things that I heard in a positive way. And doing that, reframing that, is a way to get to a growth mindset. All right, so the different topic is deep and surface learning. You may be motivated to go to the surface, right here, or you may go deep. It may be that there are some classes that you want to do surface and some that you want to go deep. Hopefully, if it's a major, you want to go deep. If you want to be a nurse, I hope you go so deep into anatomy and physiology and microbiology, because if I have a nurse, I hope they know their stuff. So keep in mind that this is on a continuum, that you are right now building a foundation for your life and for your life's work and your passions. So surface learning, some of the attributes there include memorizing for assessments, failure to distinguish principles from examples, focus on discrete facts without integration. So you know dates, you know people, but you don't really know how it all applies into the general point, or the so what. Surface learners also are unreflective about the purpose and strategies. They just get it done. Sometimes they have anxiety. I don't know if I would put anxiety here, because I think sometimes anxiety can also be deep too, because it's telling you you have to go deeper. And the also long-term retention, so that it could stick, but I don't think it's going to stick well. Now, attributes of a deeper learner include active search for meaning, that you want to know what you are learning, and you don't come at it from just one angle. You want to come at it from every angle that you possibly can. Deep learners are vigorous in interacting with the content. So they just don't take it in, but they interact with it. They ask questions. When it says a topic sentence, they may predict what is going to be in that paragraph. They may already start asking questions, and that's why when you have a book that you're reading, take notes in the margins. Ask questions. Try to predict what's going to happen, or predict questions that you'll have. Deep learners relate new ideas to previous knowledge. This is important in memory, and we are going to talk about that. But when you can connect information that you learn now to a past experience, to a past memory, that is going to help the new information that you learn stick. It is a process of assimilation and accommodation. Assimilation is learning something new, and accommodation is adding on to that thing. It's like, and those of you in child development totally understand what I am talking about, because this is a concept that I'm stealing from that discipline. This is where a child sees a bunny rabbit. It's the first time they've ever seen a bunny rabbit, and an adult in their life says, that's a bunny. Then a couple days after, the little baby, the little toddler sees a dog. What do they call that dog? They call that dog Bunny, because it's furry, it has ears, it makes a funny noise, it moves its nose, and they call it Bunny. The adult in their life will say, no, that is not a bunny, that is a dog. So that you take the new information and you connect it to the old. And when you do that, the information sticks. When you learn something new and you can't connect it, it's much harder. And this doesn't have to be anything deep. This can be silly things in your life that you can connect something to just so it sticks. Next, for deeper learners, they relate concepts to everyday experiences, because when you walk around and you see like, oh, that in political science, I learned that concept, and here I am watching the news and I see that same concept. So making those connections. They also relate evidence to conclusions. So you can make a conclusion, and we see this a lot with like our friends on social media, where they come to a conclusion. Why did they come to that conclusion? Because they feel it. That's not a conclusion that is based on science, that is based on evidence. That's why it's important for whatever argument you have that you build that argument on a collection of evidence. And it should be good evidence, not evidence that was sent down by, I don't know, by some Mars alien during the 1960s through a satellite. Probably not the best source. So thinking about the source and the evidence of where you go with that conclusion. Examine the logic of the argument. So looking at A plus B plus C, and not jumping to conclusions. When you jump to conclusions, you leave off the logical steps that had gotten you there. So important to look at that trail and the logic that got you there. Deep learners have learned a lot, so they have confidence and they have higher long-term retention. Oh, you know what? On the last one, I was like, high long-term retention. I thought that I read that on the surface learner, but I did not. I read low. Surface has low, deep has high retention, okay? So you learn it for a longer time when you can dive deep into it. The things that I learned in the past that I have connected with, both emotionally, both intellectually, those are the things that stayed with me. And even a lot of those things I am now teaching you to. And I want you to really look at this slide and take this in, because in school, the first half of this class, we are going to spend a lot on how to get a good grade. Good grade is, what is that? That is extrinsic, and not necessarily deep. Deep learners have a passion, and they may not do well in the book what the best college students do. The author talks about Martin Luther King who got a C. He got a C in public speaking. Now he's one of our best. It's our best orators in the United States in our history. He has given speeches that have moved people and moved our culture. He got a C in public speaking. You know what? Whatever he did was probably deep learning instead of surface. And if you get a Martin Luther King out of deep learning, but he may not have gotten a good grade, which maybe was a little unfair to him too, or maybe, you know, he's still in the process. And a lot of times people who bring a subject into an art form or a practice into an art form, a lot of times they may not get it right in the classroom, but they get it right outside of the classroom. And they elevate that thing in a way that nobody else has, whether that is in art or in communications or so many things. And so it's important to know you need to go through the basics so that then you can take apart those basics. You can deconstruct. So there is a meaning for both surface and deep. You have to know the basics to dig a hole and go deeper. And that is my presentation for deep versus surface learning and motivation and mindset. And I hope that this information has helped you. And I also hope that you can apply this. And I look forward to reading your responses because I'm very excited to see how you apply this and also how I can help you to extend that to different parts of your academic life. Thanks for watching this.